Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Star Wars Stuff Podcast. My name is Kermit the Frog. No, I'm just kidding. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Star Wars Stuff Podcast, where we talk all things Star Wars. My name is Colin.
This is Jedi General Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
I'm Cap. I think I'm Star.
And I'm the Lizard Man.
And we're back. We're here to talk about the Bad Batch episode 9 episode. Were we all expecting Ventress to come back in this episode, or was it just like, oh, okay, like I didn't see that coming? Okay, I'm seeing Josh just waving his head back and forth very heavily. So,
Yeah, it was. We had Fennec have a conversation with the person that we couldn't hear the voice of.
yeah,
We knew they were going to be underworld. We know that relatively this episode's been keeping a pretty fast pace.
Yeah.
They weren't going to hold this back for an episode. We knew Ventress was coming. Like, it was just all the puzzle pieces were there, and we all put the puzzle together.
Yeah.
And then, lo and behold,
The puzzled. Yeah. Yep.
yeah, the puzzle
Yeah.
pieces puzzled into a puzzle that was a viewable puzzle.
Yeah, this was like an edge piece. So you knew things were
Yeah.
lining up.
yep.
Do you
Yeah.
start with the edges or do you start with the center of the puzzle?
The edges.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't remember the last time I did an actual puzzle.
I'm with Hunter on that. I really don't do puzzles. I'm sorry.
My family does them like every New Year's. They just
Oh.
get a puzzle out, and then my dad and I avoid it at all costs until it's like everyone
Yeah.
else is asleep, and then we like to finish it when they're asleep, and then they wake up. What happened?
How did we?
All right. Well,
Yeah.
all right. Well, let's dive into this episode. This episode is called the
Harbinger.
Harbinger.
Harbinger. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
just like the
everyone,
new
'cause I was gonna
Halo
butcher that.
Infinite character.
Oh. Halo tie-in.
Ooh.
So
Master
And
Chief
that's
was
an Indiana
dope.
Jones reference.
well, so funny that you mention it.
Yeah.
I was rewatching
Here we go
Solo,
again.
and there is a deleted scene in there that I've never seen before. And there's a scene where Han Solo in that movie, when him and Kira are on the run in Corellia, they actually go into like this kind of tube with eels, but they look like snakes,
Mhm.
and they pretty much recreate the scene from The Last Crusade of where Indy pulls out the snake
people are
from his
running.
pants. And I
Yeah.
was like, I was like, oh my god, wow, like why didn't that make the movie? And I was like, what the hell?
Yeah,
So-
because they jump in the bucket, and then
Yeah.
they're in this bucket of water and eels, and Han's like, puts the lid on, looks
Yeah.
at Kira. This is a good time to kiss, and she's
Yeah.
like, no, and then they both leave, and he pulls it out. Yeah,
Yeah, I was just like, why on earth was this not in the movie? This was clearly a great Indiana Jones reference that everyone would have loved, especially me, and they took it out of the movie. Unacceptable.
you still had
Uh,
the crystal skull and the Sanghara skulls.
It's not the same. So we open up the episode. We are back on the planet Pabu.
That transition, though, that was good.
Yeah, which is an Indiana Jones reference because
Yes.
there's water there, and
That's right.
water shows up in Indiana Jones sometimes.
You know what? Very true. Very true. So we have Wrecker and Crosshair helping out the people over in the docks. They are loading their boats. I'm ready for someone to make some of these boats like from our garrisons and legions and stuff. I really would love to see these boats like actually happen at some point.
Yeah, guys, let's buy a pontoon boat and have a
Let's
photo
make
shoot
it.
in our-
I mean, come on, man.
Let's do
I
it.
was
That
surprised
was only
at
partially
Crosshair's new
fantastic.
armor.
I'm down.
Yeah. So as they're talking and trying to figure out of what's going on with Omega, because of they mentioned the great word that is M count, and they're not saying midichlorian count. It's fine. It's whatever. But
do
we
hear this
then
episode finally though.
Yes.
yes. And we then cut to Omega. She is chasing her creature, and we get to
For creature, come on, show a little respect for Batcher.
hey,
Yeah,
It's-
come on, Colin.
Betcha. Its
Okay,
name
well-
is Betcha.
You betcha, eh?
Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Anyways, so we then get to the cave of where Omega has chased Thatcher, and they go inside, and we see a ship. Did we think this was her ship right away? Because
Yep.
I didn't see I didn't see like the sailor like thing that she normally has. So I was hoping that it was her, but turns out it is her because she lurks out of the shadows. But before
Kinda
that,
creepy.
yeah.
Yeah.
And before that, we see that Batcher's kind of afraid. Like
Mhm.
like he's
Yeah.
like showing signs. So what do we think that tells us?
I mean, honestly, if your giant scary dog is scared to go in the cave, maybe don't go in the cave. That
Yeah.
was my thought
That's not
immediately.
her
But
style.
Yeah. But
Betcha.
I don't
you're
think
scared
there's
as-
anything to read into there. I mean, dogs do that kind of thing all the time.
Mhm.
Like they hear something and get kind of spooked, and I
So
think it's just Thatcher being a dog.
So what you're saying is Batcher also has a high M count. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Of course. Yeah.
So we then see that it's Ventress. She's got her a very similar outfit to what she was wearing in the Dark Disciple
Mhm.
novel cover.
Mhm.
Did we think she was gonna mention Quinlan Voss at all? Do you think they were gonna stay away from that? Because us as the audience have a lot of questions.
I really hoped that they were going to, just because of the Quinlan Voss shout out in the Kenobi show.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
just
yeah.
I thought it would be cool if there was some tie in there. I'm not surprised at all that they didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I wouldn't have been surprised if they did. I think the fact that she's still around and very obviously wearing the same kind of thing from that Lost Missions arc and the Dark Disciple cover, I think all that is enough of a reference, I guess, in their mind. So, no, I'm not really surprised that they didn't
Yeah.
show her.
Yeah. Yep. And we just kind of hear them talk about how Ventress really doesn't know. Well, I think we knew that she knew, but the Bad Batch didn't know that she knew, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And she was trying to get them to say that the target, that the person they were talking about was Omega. And then she then says, well, we'll find out if you do have a high M count by doing these different tests. And this kind of reminded me of when Ahsoka did the different tests with Grogu and
Yeah.
and the second season of The Mandalorian.
Mhm.
And I think this episode, and then the one that happened in The Mandalorian where Ahsoka was was testing Grogu, was the only time that we've really seen them kind of test someone if they are Force sensitive. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think we
Yeah,
got
well,
close with Savage, or like
Okay.
the way I
Yeah.
looked at it was like the training comparisons
Sure.
between
Yeah.
the Jedi and the quote unquote Sith, because they're like Sith assassins or whatever.
Yeah.
But the differences in that training style, I also was curious if we'd see that her version of testing M count was like Sithified compared to
Yeah.
Ahsoka's. I
yeah.
thought that'd be interesting, but no.
I mean, we also did see Qui-Gon just take a blood.
Yeah,
That's what
like-
I was about.
He
That's
took
true.
the easy way out.
Yeah. Qui-Gon also walked up to Anakin and was like, I feel the Force is strong in this one.
Right.
Like, he was
Yeah.
from the start. Qui-Gon was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I
I'm
know
going
it.
to take your blood.
Another thing I wanted to just bring up really quickly was how Omega just totally blew all cover.
Yes.
during
Oh
the
my gosh,
introduction
I
there.
know.
And it was surprising to me because she's been doing so awesome
I
this
know.
season, just kind of running things. Like when she just bluffed to that customs
Yep,
agent when her and Crosshair were trying to escape that one planet,
Yeah.
and she was totally cool about it. And then
Yep.
she just
Yep.
spit it out and blew
She
all the
lost
cover.
it, yeah.
Well, and I think to me that is she is so interested in wanting, like, she wants to know why she's special
Yeah.
or why people are after her. And I think she feels really guilty, one, obviously, for leaving all the clones and
Yeah.
Atlantis, but she feels guilty for dragging the batch in to, like, her kind of drama there. So
Yeah.
I think that kind of illustrates to me, you know,
That she
she
cares
just
a ton,
really
yeah.
cares. So
Yeah.
slips up. Yep.
Hey.
Christian!
Hey,
Yay!
Hey, I apologize if I sound a little tinny, but my actual mic is still in the box somewhere.
Oh,
Oh.
it's okay.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. No. No,
I'm not mad. I'm happy. Beautiful beard is back on screen.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I honestly, this is like the first time that we've all like
Oh,
actually been on
yeah,
that's
screen for
true.
like I think
3
like
weeks,
in
I
3
think.
weeks. Yeah,
Yeah.
Let's go.
yeah. This is great. This is fantastic. We were just talking about how this episode of the scene of where we have Ventress kind of testing Omega with the Force is very similar to when Ahsoka was testing Grogu in The Mandalorian.
It was. I got a little more Luke being tested by Obi-Wan on the Falcon,
Mm.
Oh, okay.
just in the sense that both Luke and Omega are both kind of whiny about it.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Because
a good
Omega's,
point.
oh, the rock's too slippery, Luke. Oh, with the blast shield down, I can't even see the remote.
Yeah,
That's good.
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And we continue the test of where then she sends Omega up to the top of the city to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Didn't we have a moment here? This is where Hunter and I think it was just Hunter and Crosshair are like, wait a minute, that's Asajj Ventress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
like-
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Crosshair
Crosshair
says
up
he
he's like,
goes and checks.
for the first
checks
time,
everything.
I've looked at tech stuff, and this is Asajj Ventress. I didn't bother to look up midi-chlorian as a keyword in text crap. But yes, no, that is Asajj Ventress.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
I thought that was a really important thing because it's
Yeah.
you would
Yes.
think that a special operations unit
Yes.
like the Bad Batch would have had a run-in or at least know a pretty decent
Yeah.
amount of information about a
Yeah.
big player in the Clone Wars like Ventress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yes.
I mean, it goes to tell you how much an outfit change and a new haircut works as a good disguise.
That's right.
Hey, it's
Yeah.
true. It's very
Clark
true.
Kent over here.
I was about to say I would go and talk to Clark Kent. But as they find out that it's Ventress, Ventress sends Omega up to the top of the city to grab a certain blossom, a certain flower from the tree. And then as she's going up, they then confront Ventress. Ventress doesn't feel like she needs to prove that she's changed, and the Bad Batch isn't really taking her word for it. So then we get a very cool fight scene.
A dope fight.
Okay, and let me jump in here with my
Yeah.
theory here. Okay. All right. No. Hear me out. Okay, so the title of this episode is The Harbinger. And that word means like announcing or sort of like foreshadowing. And so I'm wondering if this episode is announcing sort of the coming of like what the season finale is going to be, because usually you hear that word harbinger
Of death.
with death. So harbinger of death.
Yeah.
No.
So my
Yeah.
theory is they all got wiped out by Ventress. Might be telling us they're going to die. Also, Ventress is foreshadowing that the Empire's coming, maybe to like take out Pabu or whatever. So I think this episode could
Yeah.
be giving us some hints about the finale.
I have a second theory similar to that relating to the Harbinger. How she's like foreshadowing something. I'm gonna touch on it later, but it's just a good time. I think the thing that I got the most was this whole episode. We talked about it before the podcast. I was like, why did they choose Asajj? Why did we see Ventress? They could have been any Force sensitive person at this time. They're all laying low. They're all doing C jobs. They're trying not to do anything. Like she doesn't. What is so special about Ventress that she was the reason? Like she was the one that was chosen for this episode to be bringing this information. Besides extra fight scenes, one thing that I thought of was when she brought up you need to be trained and separate. Like baby come end, Omega actually goes off with Ventress to
Right.
Yeah.
I wanted
train or
that.
something, which I know Hunter and I share the same view of we don't want Omega being a force sensitive
Yeah.
clone.
Yeah, I have lots of thoughts on this that I can
Yeah.
discuss when we get to the end.
Yeah,
of the episode.
I mean, and I'll talk about that scene too, because of that scene was very similar to when Luke came in and kind of took Grogu, and then you have the Book of Boba Fett, and then Grogu just comes back. And
Yeah,
it's
we're
just
getting
like,
this with
yeah,
Book of Boba. We got the whole song and dance of I can't feel the force with Sabine and Ahsoka. Like we're getting like it felt like I was just like, hey, I've seen that before.
Mhm.
I'm gonna,
I
like,
do feel like we see the opposite end of it, though,
I do too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
which I like.
Yep.
Mhm.
And again, I can go into a little monologue about why I don't think Omega is force sensitive, or at least
Yeah.
think what we've seen so far is inconclusive, and also why I think, for me personally, it would be a more fulfilling story
Mhm.
if she was not.
Yeah.
yeah. And then also kind of, I mean, so we know that it's in her system, but because she hasn't had the proper training, it's not gonna fully gonna be like the force won't be there for her when she absolutely needs it until she gets the proper training. So
That
do we
being
see
said-
her? You're right. So do we?
took like a whole 40 seconds.
I'm just saying. That being said, we actually don't know if she has a high M count. What we know
Right.
is that the M count
Yes.
transfer doesn't degrade when they try
Yeah,
exactly.
to replicate over. And nobody's ever said that she has a high M count. And so I don't think she's force sensitive. I think this is actually proving that she's not.
I
Because
agree.
I
because
hope that's
in-
true.
It was episode 2, I think they talk about that it doesn't degrade. It's not about it being high. So
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
And
Colin
that is
and I
why
had
volcanoes are real.
No.
Oh my god.
I think it's very much the concept of, if you look at like the modern, like in our world comparison of blood types and blood donors, she might have what is universal donor for blood when it
Right,
comes
yeah,
to
there you
M
go.
count, where it can
Yeah.
go to anything, but it doesn't negatively affect whatever is another added, sample to it.
Yep.
Whereas if it, like all the other clones, maybe they're like, oh, they're way more refined specifically, so they can only handle certain amounts of things being added to their blood before it degrades.
yeah.
Right. I think a lot of this discussion about M count and Omega specifically by characters in this season, you have to pay very close attention to it, because if
Yeah.
you just sort of breeze through it and don't necessarily really pay attention to the wording, it would kind of lead you to be like, oh, I guess that means she is force sensitive or she has a high M count. But the quote from the end of episode 3, Colin and I had this discussion this morning about like the specific wording in that episode and in this one. So the quote
Yeah.
from episode 3 was, the clone sample supported a positive M count transfer with no degradation from the host.
Mhm.
Yeah.
None of that
Yeah.
says that she
Yeah.
has a high
High.
M count.
Yeah.
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 And then
exactly.
even in this episode, Ventress, no help to any of us,
I know.
yeah,
trying to get us
I
an answer, didn't really give the batch an answer at all.
No.
No.
I mean, her not being helpful is very in character for Ventress.
Surprise,
Right.
surprise.
For sure. But her quote was, if Omega was force sensitive. There was, in Ventress's mind, there was no conclusion here. And honestly, I feel like if she could conclude that Omega was force sensitive, I think she would have done more and pushed
Yes.
more to take Omega with her.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you really see Ventress as that figure, though, of being like, I'm going to teach this person the ways of the Force?
Oh, she better not.
Because of
I-
seeing Ventress doing the test was very interesting to me, because to
Yeah.
me that was kind of out of character. But again,
It
she's
is
been through a lot.
it is out of character for Ventress as we knew her in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you take into account how much she changes in the Dark Disciple book, which
Yeah.
I don't know how much of exactly what happens in there is still going to be canon or whatnot,
Yeah.
but they are definitely being respectful of her character journey in that book. And when you take that into account and her close association with Quinlan, and then Quinlan's tie into the Path from the Kenobi series, I think it is very, very reasonable to say she would have been through this kind of thing before, trying to check and make sure someone is Force sensitive or is at
Yeah.
least in the process of getting familiar with that, so they can bring more Force sensitive people into the fold of the Path, or whatever it's called at this point, or whatever it's
Right.
eventually going to be called.
A hunter, you stole it right out of my mouth.
Yeah.
That's exactly where I was going. It's got to be Quinlan somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, and he's the whole character journey for her in the Dark Disciple book is Quinlan being a good person, rubbing off on her, and her getting like soft by her original standards, you know?
Yeah.
Aww.
That being
Yeah.
said, sorry, just to
No.
like push it right back
Yeah.
to the fight scene, because that's all great, but I really desperately want to commentate on the fight scene because I think
Yeah,
that is
yeah.
Yes.
and that
Take it
fight
away.
was so
It
dope.
was so good.
This was a really, really like meaty episode story wise.
Yes.
There's also some really cool visual stuff that I think
Oh
my
all of us
gosh.
need to talk about. The fight scene is one of them. So we should talk about that. And I also, specifically from Cap and Star, want to talk about the new looks for many of the batch members that we're seeing.
Yeah,
The shoulder
the
pads.
shoulders, they're so bad.
I'm so
Yeah, but they look
upset.
comfy. They look more comfy than that
They're-
massive
they're
thing.
Name one
I'm
time.
glad that stupid poking
Name one
thing is
time where
gone,
he
'cause
had the
that was
pointy
hitting.
thing and used it for its
I
quote unquote
can't.
intended
can't.
purpose.
There was one
Season
episode
7.
in Clone Wars season 7.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Hunter.
Yes.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
because
At the end of
Hunter
season
uses
7,
his like
he
shoulder
Yep.
as
down
like
the
yeah.
hallway
Yep.
and points it over his shoulder and shoots down the hall.
And
Yeah.
completely cranks his head 90 degrees and his eyes to be able to look
Okay,
down the
so
the
the
scope.
useful
point is,
2% of the time.
the new shoulder pads are not my favorite thing. I will make them, but it's still they're
They're not
not
100% permanent. You have like 7 more episodes? 6 more episodes?
They're probably
Do
going
not-
to change another 2 or 3 times.
Oh my
It's
It's
god.
very
very
You
much
better
the
not.
case of
It's
I
so
am not happy with
frustrating
it,
keeping
but
up
I
with
will
it.
make it.
When he
Yes.
dies, you can make the chest armor with the gaping hole in it.
I mean,
Yikes.
here's
Oh,
a
geez.
quick question. Was that shoulder armor the shoulder armor we see in the trailer for what looks like the Juggernaut episode?
Oh.
I'm
We'll
gonna
have
go
to
back
go
and
look,
look
yeah.
right after this.
I
Josh
feel
is
like
gonna
I
look right
remember
now.
Josh is on it now.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, no, and I think some of us said that the fight kind of looked like there was some motion capture there too.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
because the fight looked more fluent.
It really was. Yep.
Especially
Yeah.
Crosshair's spinny move that he does on Ventress.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
that
there
was
were
so
some cool
smooth.
moves.
I was like, holy shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
All of that. The way Hunter just traded blows
Yes, that was so cool.
directly,
Yeah.
that was dope. And the timing of that
Oh, it was awesome.
was so spot on. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
it felt even too good for this level of
I-
Lucasfilm animation.
I agree. It just makes me super
I-
excited for the finale because we're gonna have some great
I know.
fight
Yes.
sequences. Yeah.
So I think Lucasfilm has come to the conclusion, it's the same conclusion that like a lot of video games have come to as well, which is when we have animated characters who normally engage in ranged combat, because it is primarily what they're doing. And normally when you see Wrecker being physical, he's either hauling something or he's fighting a big crocodile or monster of some sort.
Yep.
Right? In that event where you have actual, like, no, these are combatants that are trained in hand-to-hand combat going against other combatants that are trained in hand-to-hand combat. We need to make it look more
Yep.
right. And
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know if anyone else got that feeling, but Ventress was holding back.
Oh, for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, when she
Ventress
had
was
Hunter's
very-
knife at the end.
Right? Ventress was very much like is this where this is going?
Are we gonna spar?
Fine.
Yeah.
I promised Quinlan I wouldn't kill too many people, so
Yeah.
I'm not gonna
Yeah.
kill you
Mhm.
Yeah.
as much as I would
Yeah.
like to.
He has the old shoulder.
Thank goodness. Whew.
You just
Wow.
don't want to build a new one.
No,
You should
no,
have
they
think
were
that-
just so
I
easy to build.
I think that when I
That
saw
was
those
so easy to
shoulders,
build.
the first thing I thought was those are the under shoulder that the big ones
Yeah.
like interface with.
Oh, okay.
That's
That
what I
works.
interpreted them
That
as.
works.
In a
People
just got
painful
tired of him
thing for
poking
me,
them
it
with his-
looks like Wrecker has his old
Gods.
thigh armor back too in that photo.
Yeah.
I really hope he doesn't.
So something that happens as the fight scene ends, there's a line
They move.
that Ventress says that I was really intrigued by, which is the Empire is more dangerous than you could possibly fathom, which means that she has had some type of run-in with the Empire since then. I'm curious of what happened. Just because of that line kind of states like that there's some bad history that happened there of maybe like she probably not Quinlan, because this is taking place before the events of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and we know that Quinlan is still alive at that point. So something must have happened that
I took it as she knows the Emperor.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Like
Yeah.
she
We
trained under
also-
Dooku, directly trained under Palpatine.
yeah,
We don't know that Quinlan's alive at the time of Kenobi. We know that Quinlan was present. in
oh
the
right
mark,
true
Yeah.
True.
But I also remember at the panel they were talking because they showed us, like what we could expect in future episodes, and Ventress got shown. And
Yeah.
one of the questions being asked was, how does this affect the book Dark Disciple? And they went, this fits in with the events of Dark Disciple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was another
So
interview
there
that
might
was
there might
from,
be
like-
some minor changes coming to the Dark Disciple story overall, but for the most part, Dark Disciple thing sounds like it's going to be something they're going to try to stick to.
Yep,
Okay.
that was a double down in a public interview where they're like, we're trying to keep
Yeah.
as much as possible. A Dark Disciple is consistent.
Because I think they really see on the flack they got with Tales of the Jedi with the changing of the Ahsoka narrative
Yeah.
from
Yes.
the book to that.
Yeah,
Because as much as I love the Tales of the Jedi Ahsoka arc, as someone who'd read that book, I never like seeing
Yeah.
that episode.
Yep.
It's kind of like you took a lot of the weight out of Ahsoka's exile.
yes, yeah. I feel the same way. So we then cut to them on the Marauder, and they're trying to convince Omega not to do any more training with Ventress, and Omega's like, you have to trust me, I know what I'm doing. I'm a member of this team. And then we cut to the next morning, and we've got Omega and Ventress going out on a boat. It looks like a space pontoon, so that's cool. And we have Omega reaching out with the Force. Do we think she was gonna actually
No.
Okay.
No.
I kind of did. Okay, so
Okay.
let me just. I don't want her to have the Force. I just am really stuck on this idea that it's Disney, it's Star Wars. They want a Force sensitive kid. They've done this before, and I see
No.
them doing it again. So I expected that.
I-
I'm glad that didn't happen. So
We don't need this to become another Grogu and Din story.
I know.
Agreed.
I
Right.
agree. I agree.
Right. I might be maybe one of the only one people here that feels this way, but I kind of felt the way about Sabine. It's not that I was not like, oh
Yeah,
my gosh,
same.
she's a Jedi, but I at the same time I was just like, it was never hinted at
Right.
that
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
agree.
agree with you.
Sabine was going to
I
be a
agree with
Jedi.
that.
So the fact that she became Force sensitive, which is like that came out of
Yeah.
left field, that was never hinted at in
Agreed.
Star Wars Rebels,
Yeah.
and it's
Mhm.
just the same here with Omega.
Yeah.
So
I've always held to the idea that was something that was brought up by George in an old interview where he talked about characters and force sensitivity,
yeah,
which was that all of the main characters in Star Wars, to some extent, are force sensitive. It just does not manifest itself the way it does for Jedi for all the other
Right.
characters.
Hmm.
Han is
Right.
an incredibly great shot and talented pilot. Some of that is the force acting through him, but it's not a conscious thing on his behalf. He doesn't actively get the ability to lift stuff, but it is like he gets that subtle little we see it in Force Awakens when he has that over-the-shoulder shot at a TK
Yeah.
ducking out from behind a boulder. He's not even looking. He just knows that there's something there, so he just goes
Right.
for it. And we see a couple other moments where it's like, he pulls a stunt that flying-wise he shouldn't have been able to pull off, but he somehow manages to do it.
Manually exits hyperspace within atmosphere of a planet.
Right.
Example.
Yeah.
So I think
yeah.
I could lean into Omega having a degree of that kind of same like undercurrent force sensitivity, that there's something about her that gives her maybe like unnatural luck, or something that gives her like an ability to connect empathetically more with other things, because we can already see she has an ability to be empathetic with people and animals to a certain extent, but I don't want to see it manifest itself in the form of force powers
Yeah, same.
actively.
Right. Yeah. There's a line from Obi-Wan in A New Hope of where Luke is like, "What's the Force?" And he does say, the Force is an energy field created up by all living things. It surrounds us, penetrates us, it binds the galaxy together. So even back then, he was saying, the Force is in everyone.
Yeah.
And
Yoda
I
expands
was-
on that in Empire too, by
yes,
saying it's not just people and animals, but like the
Yeah.
rocks and the trees too.
yeah,
That's like my favorite line in all Star Wars is The Rock. Just how he says The Rock. It's
yes,
so
The
funny
Rock.
to me.
yeah. Oh man.
The Rock.
But as Omega is reaching out with the Force, it does not work for her. And then we see Ventress go out, and she does connect with some of the water creatures. We don't know their names or anything, but it did remind me, for everyone that, I think Josh was the only one who wasn't there, but it reminded me of the
The
water. Yeah,
Yes.
well, that yes, of that whole experience that we all ended up going on. I was gonna say of the glowing algae, but
Well,
you're
sure,
the
but
one
the
mentioning
manatees were related.
Yes.
So I had a moment, because I was watching it this morning as in the office while I was waiting on my thing to load, and the first thing I saw was they were glowing, but they were glowing kind of green.
Mhm.
Yes.
And my immediate reaction initially went, because it was just like a green blur or blob. I was like,
Yeah.
did Ventress find the one dark side nexus on freaking Pabu and summon up a bunch of dead witches of Dathomir? What the?
Yeah. And then and those creatures go away, and then it turns out she summoned this giant beak tentacle monster thing, because we don't have a name for it yet, so I'm just naming
Yeah,
that.
he was
But
fun.
yeah,
The
and
Kraken.
he was a very interesting creature
Yeah, the
because he also glowed as well, right? Like the creature glowed,
It
because
was,
I
like,
remember
in
on the
his
show.
mouth, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
I
looked
think
like he'd been
that
eating
was-
those things.
That
Yeah,
was
eating them.
crushed jellyfish dripping
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
its beak.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So as Star Wars creatures go, I don't think that creature really disappointed. I thought that creature
He was
was
pretty cute.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty cute. Yeah.
I'm gonna
I was not
side with
expecting
Star
that.
on this one.
Huh?
I'm gonna side with Star on this one. I love those creatures.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
cute. I was sad its little leg got chopped off.
Did it?
Yeah.
Oh.
She chopped his leg
I mean,
off. I was
Dang,
like,
Vanessa.
oh,
Yeah, you can probably grow it
We
back.
don't know if it's a
There's
leg.
the line between Omega and Ventress where Omega asked Ventress, "Did you summon that?"
she's like, not
And
intentionally.
Ventress was like, "Not intentionally." And I think it's because Ventress like connected with all those jellyfish and brought them up. But that's the
Yeah.
case of like, oh no, you attracted the food.
It's
Of
food.
yeah,
the
Yes,
bigger
exactly.
thing. I think it was entirely an accident on
Yeah.
both,
Yeah.
like on
Yeah.
everyone's behalf. Like, oh,
Yeah.
oops.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. And oh shoot, I actually did skip it, but there was a part like right before that Ventress does some of the creature. You have Hunter and Crosshair and Wrecker if they're
yeah.
kind of spying on them, and then Ventress just turns like towards them, and then Wrecker's like, how on earth did how on earth did she like see us, like sense us? And we know that it's Ventress and she's got those
I also liked that part because I loved how Hunter was like, oh yeah, no, I said we'd only watch. And Crosshair was like, I didn't.
Yeah, they're both using binocs, and Crosshair's like, hey, Scope does the same thing.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. Yep. So then they kind of swoop in and they're like, hey, we need to save them. And then Ventress and Omega is like, no, we can handle this. And then the creature grabs Ventress, and then Ventress connects with the creature, and then the creature stops being, all mad and grumpy, and then he goes away in the water. I like that scene because it reminds us that that each force sensitive person has the ability to connect, and some of them have some mutations. With Cal Kestis, when he touches a certain item, he can see like the like of the past and everything that happened with the item and who touched and everything. And then you've got right, and then you've got Ezra, who his like big thing with the Force is Force connection with creatures. And do we think that that's what's happening with Ventress, is like that's her special ability, or do you think it was just her connecting with the creature?
I mean, we don't have any other. I don't think there's any other evidence of her connecting with creatures well. So I think she's just using the Force generically.
Yeah. Okay.
Its shell did have a nice little rippled color though. That was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe her Force quality is like switching the color of things. I don't know. It was cool.
Well,
I like
it
that.
was really
detail.
interesting because it's, if I'm remembering my marine biology right, it's most animals, the underside of them is camouflage, so that when predators look up, they're like disguised against like the sky. But in this case, it is the predator, so it's the thing it can change. Its camouflage is its top shell, the thing that's above it. So
I'm not gonna lie, I saw the shell crest the water, and I was like, "Is this gonna be Godzilla?"
Just like the laser comes out on me. Which, I guess we might as plug it. There's a new Godzilla movie coming out on Friday, so that's cool.
I'm mad about it because I want -1 to be on streaming, but it can't because Legendary sucks, and I haven't seen it yet, and I want to.
Of the new TV show?
No, Godzilla -1, the one that won Oscars.
Yeah.
Like, no, you can't stream that because we have Big Monkey in Power Fist that needs to be on the big screen first.
We have an inferior Godzilla movie you need to see first.
Yeah, and then maybe we'll put yours on streaming.
Yep. So we then have the whole crew go back to the dark and scary cave, and they ask the important question that we were all hoping that would be answered, which is, what's going on with Omega? Like, did you learn anything? And Ventress is pretty much like, I mean, if she trained with me, yeah, probably, but at the same time, probably not. And how do we feel about that answer? Because I was just like,
answer vague and unconvincing.
Yeah. I also thought it was pretty fishy that she didn't like require any payment.
Right.
I'm like, you just showed up, had a nice little summer camp, and then like,
and she stayed there too, instead of leaving.
She's up to something. I think that much is clear.
Yeah. I don't think this is the last time that we see her this season. I think that that most likely they will call in, like, as soon as the Empire like really finds out where they are, they'll probably call in more bounty hunters, and that's probably where Cad Bane will come in, as well. And then for all of us who really love all these amazing OG characters, we would hopefully see Boba Fett, we would see Bossk, and they would go start hunting Omega, and that's where Ventress would be like, hey Fennec, we have to go warn the Bad Batch, and then we could see some bounty hunters fighting other bounty hunters, and
be dope.
Some people can dream.
The mini panel post premiere at LFL, where we had Jennifer Corbett being asked about Asajj and everything. She implied, I might be misremembering, so if anyone else was there with me at Lucasfilm High, but if you like, I remember her mentioning that it was very much implied that Asajj was a one-episode character.
Yeah.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
It
Because
also wouldn't
I think,
surprise me if she was a dirty liar.
I mean, right. Every time an Asajj question was brought up, they deflected by trying to talk about either her new haircut or the sushi on Pabu.
Well, I mean,
But
It's-
my theory would be that they're gonna, is that like if they put out a little like statement that they're gonna like keep expanding on her story today
Okay.
in like a different way post Dark Disciple to an extent.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I think what we might be seeing is a Asajj Ventress Tales of the Jedi arc,
Yeah.
Ooh, cool.
That
I'm here for that.
where if they did like we got Dooku and an Ahsoka, what if we got something like a Qui-Gon and a Ventress
Ooh,
as
yeah.
a separate
That'd be
arc
sick.
on
Yeah.
another season? Because
Yeah.
they tend to, from the looks of it, they were picking kind of counterpoint foil
Yeah.
characters, where, like, you know, because you could argue that Ahsoka and Dooku kind of are foils of each other. Well, one, they both are disillusioned with the Jedi Order, but it's what they do as a result.
Uh-huh.
Maybe we'll
Yeah.
see an expansion on Asajj after meeting Quinlan. Maybe that'll be where we get our resolution of Quinlan, or an adaptation of Dark Disciple to
Sure.
retcon whatever happens in the book.
Well,
Yeah.
She's
I
hoping.
wouldn't be surprised if we don't see her again, just because like this was episode 9. There's only 15 episodes, and
Yeah.
so we've only got
That's a
6
lot,
more, and
yep, to wrap
3
up.
of them at least are going to be the finale.
Yep.
So we really
Yep.
only
Yeah.
have 3 more, and we're having a 2-parter next.
Yeah.
Next week's a two-parter.
And so
Yeah, next
really,
week is
to
the
me-
fall of Pabu.
Yeah. So
I
to
agree.
me, there's like a 2-parter next week, and then there's like maybe 1 episode, and then there's the finale. And so it's like there's really not a lot of time, especially if we're gonna assault Tantus and stuff. So
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be
so
surprised if we don't see her again.
Yeah.
we have
Yeah.
the order, and then after that is Juggernaut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, hear me out, there's a chance we finally get the Juggernaut arc. I don't know.
and there's a chance that Max Rebo might show up, right?
Mm,
Right?
There's a
Rebo
chance we might see
is
Delta
the
Squad.
Juggernaut.
Oh god.
You gotta raid Max Rebo. Train heist on Max Rebo's back.
I mean, hey, it's what
Okay.
heroes do.
All right, there you have
No,
it.
it is.
What heroes do, man.
Yeah,
Recruits.
So we then have them kind of part ways. We have Ventress getting her ship, and she leaves out in the clouds, and we're still kind of left with the mystery question of what do they really need Omega for, and
Yeah.
and what's going on with the character. And then the screen goes black, and we get the credits, and we still have a lot of questions unanswered, but we still have we have a month and a half left. Well, I mean, not even a month and a half left. I think we have like around a month
Yeah.
left of the Bad Batch, because it ends on May 1st. So
Yep.
Sad.
yeah, I like this episode. It was great seeing Ventress, but I'm gonna give it like a 7 just because we didn't get really any questions answered. It was
Yeah.
just she's there, she's doing her thing, and then and then she's out, she's gone.
Yep.
Josh.
Yep.
I think, honestly, just like thinking about the episode and what it gave the story, I think it didn't give that much to continue the momentum. So I gotta go to like a 6 or 6.5, which I feels low for me to say, but comparatively to what other episodes, especially this season, have been bringing, I just don't think it brings a lot to the table. Lizard
I would
Man.
put it in probably in the 7.5 range. Yeah, I thought it was as far as Star Wars animation as a whole goes, I think it was a really, really well done episode.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like 7 might sound low, but like it not. I don't mean that in a bad way at all. Like it was still a very good episode.
I was gonna say somewhere between 6.5 and a 7 as well for my rating. Because I agree with Josh. We don't narratively move the story forward a lot this episode, but at the same time, it's a good episode. We do get some more depth. Visually, it's a beautiful episode, as with every episode of Bad Batch.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever had an ugly episode of Bad Batch.
No.
No.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to give it a 6, honestly, just because it doesn't move the story plot, like you said, but also where did Ventress come from? How did she get there? Why is she there? Why did she leave without payment? And they're not going to wrap this up, and I swear they won't. So,
No,
I think
they
she'll
won't.
just disappear, and they're going to leave
They
those
don't have
loose
to,
ends.
though.
Yeah, and that's fine. And I liked watching it. Like the fight scene was awesome, but it really you could skip from the previous episode probably to the next one, and
Yeah.
I don't know that you quite notice in the storyline that you missed something. So
Yeah.
that's
I think I think it depends on like I don't know how we're reading things. Sorry, but like, I'm gonna give 3 ratings here. Anyway, for Star Wars animation,
Oh,
I
God.
feel like it was like an 8 or a 9.
oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But then for Bad Batch season 3, because the rest of these episodes have been so good, it's to me it's like a 5 or a 6.
Yeah.
Because the rest of season 3 has been great. But then like this filler episode was a lot more fun than some of the other ones
That's
in
true.
season 2. So like I don't know. So there's 3 ratings.
I mean, I would probably say that this wasn't even a filler episode because it did have a lot to do with the plot. It's just we didn't really get the answers that we were hoping to get.
Sure.
And
Yeah. It reminds me a lot of like a very similar feeling that I had back when season 7 was releasing. It was the middle episode of that Ahsoka arc where
Oh yeah.
we ended at one point at the first episode, and then the second episode ended, and I was like, I now have the exact same questions
Yep.
that I've been already
Yeah.
pondering for a whole week.
Yeah.
Like I
exactly.
kind of feel like this, I can skip over this, and
We
narratively it'll
do,
move forward the same.
we do, but some of the batch's questions have been answered.
Some of them were yes, but I think this isn't nearly as bad as that episode. Like that, I felt was almost atrocious writing.
Yeah,
but like
I
this
agree with
is, it's a similar-ish feeling of like, okay, well, I have a lot of the same questions that aren't answered, and now I have more that I know aren't going to get answered.
Yeah.
Starting with
Yeah.
wise ventures.
well,
Our
that's
adventures.
Do you one better? I already said wise, so I can't really think of another. Those ventures.
Before we go, we wanted to give a shout out to all of our Patreon users because, I finally got everyone out of that, of the Patreon place because they loved it so much and they wanted to stay there, but I finally got them out of there.
All them let us go.
Master's giving Dobby a sock. Dobby is free.
Oh my
So this is
god.
what life is outside the paywall.
Yes, exactly. There you go. But no,
It's a grinder outside.
we love doing the Clone Wars commentaries, and if you love the Clone Wars as much as we do, please go check it out, because we have so much fun on there, and we just love talking about how amazing that show is, because I think all of us, it has really changed the way that we looked at Star Wars, and it made us embrace Star Wars even more. So please experience that with us by going to patreon.com and look up at Star Wars Stuff Podcast 2187 and check us out there. You can find us on Instagram at Star Wars Stuff Pod. Please give us a follow. This is our new page. I won't get into all the drama and everything, but we lost our old page and this is our new one. So please go follow it. And then we're also on Twitter and X. If you guys are listening to us on X, YouTube, anything, thank you so much. And then we are also, please go anywhere. Just follow Star Wars Stuff Podcast, but we also email starwarstuffpodcast@gmail.com. Again, we would not be doing this if it wasn't for you guys. And then you can also follow everyone here, Blue Harvest, J Guy Hunter, Kenoman Around, Star Spangled Comet, Cloning Around, and I'm the Captain 501. We love you all. Is there any closing thoughts? Any words of wisdom? Anyone? Nothing, really.
I hope
Wow.
we see the other shoulder pad soon.
Okay. All right.
Don't
Wow.
eat glowing sushi.
There you go.
There you
And with that With that being said, may the force be with you. Delta Squad's okay.